Hello, guys. Welcome to my next Monday Bagel. And my guest today is Damien Riehl. Damien, give me some background of yours. Tell me a few words about yourself.
Sure. My name is Damien Riehl. I've been a lawyer since 2002. I litigated with large law firms, Robbins Kaplan's and others. I represented Best Buy in much of their commercial litigation. I also helped victims of Bernie Madoff. I also helped sue JP Morgan and over the mortgage-backed security crisis. So I did large bet the company litigation, but I've also been a coder since 1985. So I've been coding since my Commodore 128. So I have the law plus technology background, enough that when in 2015, I said to Thomson Reuters, one of the biggest legal technology companies in the world, I said, here's legal tech that I think can change the world. You should build it and hire me. And they were dumb enough to do that. So I led a team of 100 programmers and 50 lawyers building this really big thing for TR. I left that cool job to do another cool job in cybersecurity, where the biggest thing I did was that Facebook hired me and my company to investigate Cambridge Analytica. So I spent a year of my life on Facebook's campus with Facebook's data scientists and my former FBI, CIA, NSA people that worked with me to figure out how bad guys use Facebook data. I did that Monday through Friday, about 57 weeks in a row. The stuff we would do on Monday would make the New York Times and the Times of London by Friday. I left that cool job to do my current cool job, which is with VLEX. I have about 1 billion with a B legal documents. That is cases, statutes, regulations, motions, briefs, pleadings, orders. And I'm taking those billion legal documents and I'm running large language models across that data set. So that if you ask a legal question, not just in the United States, but over 100 countries worldwide, you'll be able to get a large language model created legal answer that is grounded in truth, that is grounded in statutes, grounded in regulations, grounded in judicial opinions. So this is using retrieval augmented generation, and that's my day job these days. Also, maybe interesting to your users is that's my day job is with VLEX. My nights and weekends are with a nonprofit called Sally. That is a legal data standard. That legal data standard is being used by Thomson Reuters, by LexisNexis, by iManage, by NetDocuments, and we will soon have an ISO. Will be backed by ISO. This is a way to make data interoperable, and thus at this point we have 15,000 legal data tags to be able to enable AI applications and other analytics.
But you're also a futurist. You discuss and write a lot about AI, and we are here to chat about AI and law. So first of all, I would like to ask you about your recent article about AI agents. You said that AI agents transform the knowledge work by accelerating ideas and expressions. And how do you think it may be adapted in legal world?
Sure. I think that maybe a good way to start is to think about how AI will be adopted in legal and then think about how agents will accelerate that. So when we think about AI and large language models in particular, you think about what is the work of a lawyer. What do we lawyers do? But we ingest words, we think about words, and then we output words.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out that large language models are able to do that very, very well because they've read the entire corpus of the web. They've read almost every book that has ever been. They've read almost every case that has ever been. So they can be able to ingest words, reason with words, and output words at superhuman speed and maybe at a postgraduate level today. And we'll get better tomorrow. So if we think of it in that context, I spoke to a bunch of doctors a while ago. Doctors also ingest words, analyze words, and output words in the form of diagnoses. But then they also have, ways that they can do diagnostic tests with blood and other things. So they at least have some way to be able to not have all of their work being taken by large language models, but lawyers don't have that ability. So as we think about what we do in the law, now that large language models can do these things, what can we do that is not what the large language models can do? So that is how AI can apply to lawyers in general, and then in particular with the agents that you asked about.
Yeah.
Right now, people have said, ChatGPT isn't quite there yet because it's not really going to do my job. But what agents do, and for those who don't know what an agent is, it's where I say think of it like a robot. One type of agent is to say, go out and think of what might be a good business idea. Then build some AdWords for that business idea. Go sell that thing, collect money from that thing. And if you need anything, please do let me know. So that is an agent that will go out in the world and do these things without necessarily any human intervention. So that is an agent generally. But then for legal work, you can imagine how could I use that as a lawyer? I could be able to say, much like I say to an associate, go research this thing. And after that, put the results of your research into this document. and then file that document with this other law firm, or file this document with this government agency or with this court. And if you need anything, please do let me know. So if we think about how Microsoft is doing this right now, that they are building agents, OpenAI is building agents, Facebook with Llama are building agents. So this is not an if, it's just a when. And if the scenario that I just talked about makes you think, gosh, that would be game changing, that's what's coming with AI agents and the law.
Do you know many lawyers working with AI agents so far?
I don't know many, because the agents that we have today are very primitive. They are not very good. But Microsoft is working to fix that, as is OpenAI, as is everyone. And there's really a question that GPT-5 will probably have agents built into it. So anyway, no lawyers today, because it really doesn't exist in a good way. But I can imagine that it will be coming.
So how should we lawyers prepare for this shift? Are the boundaries of our profession going to be redrawn?
I think so. When we think about my friend Casey Flaherty, who your listeners might know, Casey talks a lot about, we do a lot of thinking as lawyers, and we do a lot of thunking as lawyers. That is a lot of drudgery work. And we bill a lot of time for that thunking, that drudgery work. So as we think, okay, maybe that drudgery work will be taken by large language models and by agents that are running those large language models. So if we currently take a lot of our income from that hourly built thunking, if that then goes away, what's left? And we just have the thinking part of it. And then we have thinking, and then another aspect of lawyering that we don't really think that much about is our humanity. That is, if you think about why do I go to a lawyer, it's similar to why do I go to an accountant. In an accountant, there's a thing called TurboTax. I could be able to upload my my tax form and be able to have TurboTax do all my things, but I still hire an accountant. And why do I do that? Because I want to bounce some ideas off of that accountant. I want the humanity of that accountant to be able to say, what about this? Will I get in trouble? Will I not get in trouble? I wouldn't necessarily ask those of a machine, but I would ask that of human. So as lawyers, our humanity is the thing that is really going to set us apart. People will come to us humans rather than a robot lawyer, because we will talk them off the ledge. We will say, you think you want to sue about this, but it's really not worth it. Let's talk you off the ledge. You think you might want to get divorced, but maybe you don't. Maybe you want to work it out. The humanity is what will set us apart from the robots.
That's really interesting. As I told you before, I prepared this global report on use of AI in law, and lawyers say that 38% of their day-to-day work may be replaced by AI. It's a lot, but do you predict that even more cases may be replaced by AI, more tasks?
There's a paradox called the Javon Paradox, where as the unit price of something gets lower, we as a society use more of it. And so let's give a concrete example of legal work. So if you are a client that asks me a legal question, I might do research for maybe 10 hours to be able to get an answer to that question. At VLEX, we're building a tool that will take that 10-hour task that will go through thousands of cases, statutes, and regulations, and will give you a memo in 2 minutes. So that goes from a 10-hour task to a 2-minute task. And you might say, gosh, now my billable hours have shrunk by 10 hours. What will I do? But the thing is, with Javon's Paradox, now that I have the answer in 2 minutes, I can ask question number 2, and question number 5, and question number 20, and question number 50. And then in those 10 hours, I might actually have 50 questions answered that I can give to my client and still spend the same amount of time on it. But now think of how much better my clients will have as their work product. So as we think about that, as the unit price of that research becomes cheaper, maybe clients will ask us more questions. And so that's Javon's Paradox. We thought that LED light bulbs would save us a lot of energy, but instead we just leave them on all the time because it's so cheap that it's almost not even worth worrying about. So in the same way, maybe legal work will become so cheap that people will just ask us more and more questions, and we'll actually make more money.
How should we change our ethical approach to our profession while using AI agents who are not lawyers?
I think that we as lawyers and society have talked a lot about the ethics of using say, ChatGPT to hallucinate cases. Steve Schwartz has allowed us to be able to think about that a lot. So there's the ethical obligation to confidentiality and the ethical obligation to provide good work product, and that's really focused there. I would also say that we have an ethical obligation under the US rules, at least, to be able to not charge our clients an over amount of money. And so you can imagine, under my example, if I charge my client 10 hours for something that a large language model could do in 2 minutes, would that be overcharging my client? Would that be breaching my ethical duty to charge my client a reasonable fee? So as we think about the ethics, we should think both about the confidentiality as well as our duty to not charge too much. And so I think that we've seen this before. That is, we've had, I started my practice in 1999. And in 1999, there was a real question: should I be able to email with my clients, or would that be a breach of my confidentiality obligations? Because that might be snooped on everyone. Everyone used it, and now it's fine. In the same way, e-discovery, people have said, no, I need eyes on every single document in this case. But then now, if you don't do e-discovery, courts have said that that's an ethical violation. And if you don't do email, that's an ethical violation. So how soon before, if you don't do large language models, that is similarly an ethical violation, because you've spent 10 hours on a thing that should have taken you 2 minutes.
I've been discussing this use of AI in legal research for over a year at many conferences, and lawyers are really scared of ruining this billable hours model. So I don't know if many of them are prepared to such a shift. But you said that it can streamline legal research. What implications may it have for democratization of law, access to justice? I'm constitutionalist, so I think that we need such the access to justice, and we need AI to streamline it.
Yeah, I want to address the billable hour, and then I'll go to access to justice. So on the billable hour, if you think about the billable hour, any business person will say that revenue, the amount you bring in, minus cost equals your profit margin, right? That's that. But we often, as lawyers, don't think about the cost. We just think about what the revenue is that we brought in last week, last month. But if you think about the cost, maybe it's very expensive. If you move over to a flat fee model, and then you say, okay, revenue, and if I push down my cost using maybe taking a 10-hour task and shrinking it to 2 minutes, look at how much bigger my profit margin gets. So this way, maybe I can make more money with the flat fee model than I did with my hourly model. So I would say that maybe if we now move over to not charging, 10 hours for that 10-hour task, but instead charging the equivalent of 10 hours in a flat fee, and then I shrink down my cost, look at all that profit margin. It takes me 2 minutes. I still make the same amount of money. So anyway, or maybe instead of a 10-hour equivalent, I do a 9-hour equivalent or a 7-hour equivalent. But even then, you're making more money than you would have with the hourly model. So anyway, so that's, as we think about shifting our brains from the billable hour to flat fees, we realize we can actually make more money. Now let me talk about your question about the access to justice issue. 92% of legal needs are unmet because we lawyers are too expensive. And that's in the United States. And I would say that worldwide, it's probably more than that.
Yes.
So really, that's something we should be ashamed of. That is, we as lawyers should be ashamed of, because we in the United States have an ethical duty to advance justice, and not just to advance our pocketbooks, but to advance justice for all. And so as we think about how we're doing things wrong by not serving that 92%, these are things that even middle-class people can't afford lawyers. When I was at a law firm, a large law firm, Robbins Kaplan, we associates would often say and joke, we can't afford to hire ourselves. That is, if we had to hire ourselves, it would be too expensive for us. And we were lawyers working for this really, really large law firm. So if we can't afford ourselves, how can anyone else afford us either? So maybe large language models, now that a 10-hour task can be shrunk to a 2-minute task, maybe that I as a lawyer can help serve that 92% that are not being served. And by the way, that 92%, economists would call that a latent market. That is an untapped market that is just waiting to give us money. And maybe that 92%, the pile of money that is, they won't be able to afford, $500 an hour or $800 an hour that I currently charge, but they can afford a little bit. So maybe if we tap that 92% of untapped market, we can, in the aggregate, make more money than we do with our current currently tapped market. So I think that this gives us an opportunity as a legal profession to both serve that 92%, something we should be ashamed for not serving, and also maybe make more money in the process to be able to then serve that untapped market.
I fully agree. We had similar research in Europe, and I think the results were that 17% of people met a lawyer in recent 3 or 5 years. So 83% couldn't meet any lawyer in their recent life. So their needs, legal needs, were unmet. This is where we'll pause right now. Damien's interview was so captivating that we've decided to present it in two parts. Stay tuned for the second half coming next week. See you soon.